Okay, welcome everybody to the August 2022 FileMaker Pro User Group. I'm Taylor Sharp. Myself and Greg Price are your co-chapter coordinators, and we are here for another of our monthly presentations. We're at Harmonic Data's Treehouse. Thank you, Harmonic Data people, for letting us invade out here, and we're having a good time. Announcements, next month we're going to actually have a Claris presentation, so come back next month and you'll hear about some programs, and of course they're going to do some more on their new studio products, so that'll be for next month. If you haven't heard, there's going to be a FileMaker software 10% software increase sometime in September, so if you're anywhere close to renew before then and save your 10%. Normally this would be when we are doing our usual getting ready to go to, Engage or developer conference, and of course that's didn't happen. However, last month a couple of the platinums put together Auto Enter Live, which was a virtual conference. So if you missed out on Auto Enter Live, I believe a bunch of those sessions are going to be posted publicly, but a lot of things were released then. The only thing that's live that's happening, I know, for developers this year is going to be Pause on Error in October, which will be somewhere in Northeast Georgia. Just think Deliverance, and it's that kind of area. But anyway, it's actually a fun place. I went there last year and we had a good time, other than it rained most of the whole time. But hopefully, if you're interested in doing an in-person conference, that'll be an in-person conference. That actually, most of the conference was done outside, but anyway, it was kind of fun. So, but today we've got Jared Hague with Monolithic Apps to give us a ServerManager presentation, and he's also with Beezwax. But I found this software, golly, is, I don't know, 6 months ago or somewhere when he let it out, but it's actually really useful software if you have to manage a whole bunch of different servers. So I'm not going to spoil anything on it, so I'm going to turn it over to Jared. But without further ado, Jared, tell us all about your product.
Hello. Can you hear me all right?
Sure do.
Great. Okay, perfect. All right. If you have any questions at any time, just shoot them out there. I guess you introduced me. I'm Jared Hague, and I just do a little FileMaker stuff up here in Canada. And there is not much, there's not many FileMaker developers up here. And so it's a bit isolating, but I got involved with Beezwax at the end of 2018. And so it's been nice having a community to work with. I started doing FileMaker developing in the mid 2000s. Like my first version was version 7. And then like I was working IT at a place, and they asked me to make a database, and they said, hey, we bought this FileMaker server software. And so I made them a database, and it did a bunch of, kept track of scheduling for a bunch of workers at different locations, at different rates, and all this kind of stuff. And they, after doing that for a while, it was really fun to make, and I kind of went, hey, this is really kind of what I like doing. I found out I never thought I would do that, and it's one of those. I'm sure a lot of people have a similar experience of, they get FileMaker in their hands and they get surprised about like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And so I started to do development, and when the iPad came out, I really kind of got interested in that. And then FileMaker Go came out, and I was like, wow, I really like making these applications on Go. And so I decided to just consult for myself. And I was still working at this place, but I decided to do consulting, and they were kind of my first client. And but to get my first clients, I went like out into the city and just walked around with an iPad door to door to businesses. And that's how I got my first clients. So I'm kind of a very self-motivated type person. And so I went out there and things just kind of grew from there. And my first love, though, has always been making mobile software. And I always kind of wanted to do, lots of, focus on iPhone and iPad and stuff like that. But, there's just not every client's going to want that. So, of course, I had to do lots of different types of databases and things like that. So anyway, I did release a version, a different admin console. If you go on the App Store and you look at it, you'll see that I have another product on there that I made when the admin API first came out. And maybe I'll bring that up here. So I don't know if anyone has seen that or used that before, but share desktop too. Oh, I gotta, Ring Central's making me allow it to share screen. Just hang on a minute. Okay. Okay, I'll have to rejoin. Be right back.
Okay, yeah, Jared's doing a security issue so he can get his screen sharing going. So he'll be right back here in a second. So I'm kind of jealous of his background picture there in Canada, though. I'm sure it's a lot cooler up there than it is here. So always interesting. So let's see. Here he comes back on.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
There you go. Good to have you back.
It's always those permissions keeping you safe, but they can be annoying sometimes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Can you see that picture there?
We see it.
All right. Wonderful. So I get the App Store to load here. Here we go. All right. You see the App Store on here. You can see this one here. This FM admin console was what I originally made, and it was I made it in app kit, and it was made just for the iPad and the iPhone. And it was kind of like my first foray into doing native Swift development. And I'd done some other things before, like I learned Objective-C and made some things, but never released anything commercially. And then when Swift came out, it was really new, and it was kind of like, yeah, do you really want to get into something that's like evolving so much? And when it eventually kind of calmed down, is when I made this first application. And then I was planning on doing some updates to it, and Swift UI came out and took the world by storm. So I was like, yeah, I really want to go and do something in Swift UI. And so I started working on this in Swift UI. And things kind of evolved. Swift UI went through a version or two before I was really able to do what I wanted with it. And when they kind of came out with the changes to the desktop, then I was really interested in it. And it really made this possible. And one of the goals I had too with this software was I wanted to do something completely in Swift UI. I didn't want to like fall back and do AppKit and, you know, other things. I just really wanted to kind of be all Swift UI and all the latest stuff. And so, I made this, and it took a little while. You know, personal projects always get on the back burner, unfortunately. But now here it is. So I just released a new version yesterday, and I added a new feature in there. And I'm going to also open up the same app on iPad as well, so you can see both of them. Okay. So, all right, here's my iPad. I'll shrink it down just a little bit. We'll be able to see the two versions together, and you'll, I could switch to my phone too, but the iPad's pretty similar. So I will just take a look at the two versions together. Let's see on my, open it up on here. All right. Oh, hang on 1 second. All right. So you can see the same thing kind of here on the desktop and the iPad. Of course, a lot of this stuff is shared in Swift UI. One of the nice things is a lot of the code is exactly the same. And so, you know, there's just kind of some slight modifications to the desktop versions, but a lot of the elements are the same. And you build something in Swift UI, it can be the same on both, which is pretty nice. So this, the way this communicates with FileMaker is, of course, through the admin API. So currently, this version's limited to just the capabilities of what the admin API does, but you know, you'll see that we can kind of like expand on the usefulness of what can happen. So, so if you want to add a server on the desktop, you just go up to server and you add like a new server. Or you can add a new group, which is that's a new thing. And I'll show you what it looks like on iPad too. So you can go to edit, and then you go down here to the little button, and I can add a server. I can give it a name, put in a URL. I'll just make a fake one for now. And then if you don't choose a server group, that's fine. It'll just automatically put in this ungrouped area. And if you edit and you decide, I want to put it in a different group, I could put it in the development group and hit save. You can see it's up there now. And the cool thing, because this syncs with iCloud, all your devices get all the same thing. So you can see that that also got put in here too. Now there's one little weird thing. You'll see it's just slightly out of order. There it changed so that just is like iCloud, like taking a second to update. So, you know, it's not instant all the time, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, oh man, I'm trying to click on here. I got to switch to the iPad. All right. So, so if I wanted to add a group, I mean, this is really the same kind of thing. We just hit add a group. We can make a new group, and it'll go down in the list. And now all the different groups, like I had a developer that I work with, and he deals with a ton of servers, and he really liked my app, and he's like, you know, it would be really great to be able to group the servers a little bit instead of have one big list. And he also was wanting to have like the original version had just sorting manually only. So, you know, you go in here and you could like drag them around, which is great. But he really was like, yeah, I want to be able to sort alpha, and I want to be able to have groups and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. So I'll put those in. So you can collapse the different groups. You can choose the way you want to sort them. So if you wanted to sort it alphanumeric, you can do that. And if you want to have it manual, that's good too. And now there is some of the things that Swift UI is good at and some it's not so good at. And of course, if anyone familiar with iOS is definitely going to recognize this kind of sorting. But you would think, yeah, if I want to change the group, I would just drag it down to another group. And Swift UI is not really good at that yet. And I could probably make it happen, but it is super hard. And well, it's not super hard. It's tricky. So currently, the only way to change groups is this. And eventually, I'm going to make it go like you drag it into the groups, because that just makes sense, right? But there's a lot of really cool things coming out in the next version of iOS. And one of the things is they're making the drag and drop API is really like kind of tough to deal with. And they're making big improvements to that. So I think that's going to be something I'm going to be able to take advantage of to make some of this a little more elegant. The other thing too is I can't sort these groups just right here quite yet. So I just made it go in here. You can go into the server groups and you can reorder in that way.
Does not bother me.
What's that?
Oh, are we on?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Oh, we're on.
Yeah, I could hear something, but yeah, like I said, you got questions, just shoot them out at any time.
Besides your groups, the actual groups here, if you go to sort development manually, is that like a universal sort for all of your other groups, or can the groups be different?
No, this is just in that section.
Oh, cool.
So you can have development, and that also syncs too, right? So if you're in here and you decide, yeah, I want to sort this ascending, then this is suddenly sorting descending too. So it's gonna, whenever you come in and look at your servers and your groups and stuff, it's really uniform how it's going to behave and looks. You know, it's really nice, especially with the phone, because
my other comment was that the sorting of the groups themselves having to go someplace else to do it, that doesn't bother me.
yeah, that was a compromise, and my rationale was that you're going to be doing that very rarely. But I really felt like having a manual sort only was the best choice, because I could put in alpha sorting, but really the groups are really, you're not going to put your groups, you're not going to name them group 1, group 2, right? So I really felt like, yeah, I want to have my important stuff at the top and, other stuff below it. And I don't care about the it being sort of alphabetically, but things could change, definitely, right? So yeah, there's lots of different things we can do. So anyway, if you want to edit servers, you can pop in there and edit them. Now let's take a look at this server. You can also this also works in FileMaker Cloud, and it works with the multi-factor on FileMaker Cloud. So if you log into a FileMaker Cloud server for the first time, it will prompt you for 2-factor, and you'll put in your code. And then after that, it stores like a refresh key, and then you don't need to like put in your code again over and over every time you use it, which is kind of nice. Like it'll just work like a regular server. So I'll log in here, and one cool thing though. Okay, you saw that it just logged in automatically with Face ID, right? And if we go over to the desktop and I look at this, so it's going to ask me for my fingerprint, Touch ID, right? But instead of that, I'm just going to tap my watch, and I can get in using authentication from my Apple Watch.
All kinds of stuff on it. It's kind of a cool tool.
So you've had this?
So,
I just got it, but it's.
So I can hear, and just shout loud if you have a question, or you want me to stop or something.
We're just like exploring the possibilities are legion right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you'll see there's lots of really cool possibilities, but there's a lot, there's a huge direction I would like to take this in, but it all depends upon the amount of support I get with it, because it's personal project, right? Like I can't I got to work on client projects most of the time. They're like take priority, and so these things kind of go on the back burner at times, but I try to keep it up as much as I can. And the more support I get, the more time I can justify towards it, right? Of course, other than it just being a fun project, right? Anyway, I've got a dashboard in here. There's going to be some really cool things that'll happen in the fall here, because the charting in Swift UI got a big upgrade. And like with these donut charts and stuff, I just made those in Swift UI myself, but there's like a new charting tool, which is really nice that they put in. So like I'm going to change this volume stats to like just a bar that goes across the bottom, and some things like that. So anyway, so we'll just go into it. And one thing too is if you just kind of sit here, it'll auto log out. And let's just go into databases. And so you can see that I got my extended privileges, and you can see the size and how many clients are connected and stuff. And if you want to just sort these, you can, based on size or whatever it is.
The FMP12 file size doesn't include the external containers, right? Because that's all I could ever get out of the app, the admin API myself.
If it's stored externally, I don't think it counts towards this. But the thing is, you can get that information from here, right? Your volume stats. I mean, you can see this. This is like crammed full, but there's a point to why it's full, other than just loading tons of junk on here. But I'll show you a cool trick about that. So, and the thing that's kind of interesting too is like this volume stats is not really like officially in the data API. So it's or not the main API doesn't really support the volume thing. So if FileMaker decides one day to like block it off, it'll just disappear, which would really stink. But anyway, yeah, it's not part of the official set. So anyway, you can go in here and you can do things like you can just do searches for, if you have hundreds of databases, it makes it really easy. You can also filter things like, I want to just see like things where there's connected clients. And so I could click on this and then I can see the clients next to it of who's connected. You can see I am connected on my computer. And I'm going to show something kind of cooler on the iPad. Let me bring that forward, and I'm just kind of careful about, like, I don't want to lock myself out. You only can have 5 sessions open on a server at a time. So, okay, so if I have this open here, I go into the database, you can see it's a little bit different on here. You can see there's my database, and then, you know, here's the bulk operations. You want to like pause all databases. They're all paused now. We're going to resume them. And then we got things like, oops, we got the filter here. So we just like look at only files that are open. There's like a, you know, clear the filter button here. This is, oh, this is where you sort by whatever you want to sort by. And one kind of cool thing is a lot of times I just leave this open on my computer because I'll just go in and I'll use it as a launcher. So I'll have kind of some of my databases I'm working on, and I'll just say, open it in FileMaker. And there, that database is open in FileMaker now. And kind of cool thing, I made this database a while back for so if I wanted to do that and then throw FileMaker up on the side here at the same time, and we'll see. All right, so this database, this FileMaker database, is like really focused on making it iPad-y, and so it does kind of some things like you look at what you get for free on iPad. You get this kind of like slide over and this you know, this master detail type layout, and you know, it's a little tricky but possible to copy in FileMaker, of course. See if anybody has actually contact information in here. This is a bunch of random. Well, that's weird. Contact information not showing up. Oh, anyway, this is an old file just for demo stuff. But anyways, yeah, you can have both up here at the same time. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. So if I went in here and I looked at clients, you can see that, let me refresh that. I got an iPad Pro connected here, and I could do something like send a message. So hey there, send a message, and we just received that on the iPad. So, and you know, if you want to disconnect somebody, you could do that. There you go, close now. So, I'll just go down into this general area. A lot of the stuff is just kind of general toggles and switches you would expect to see. There's nothing, nothing that's going to blow your socks off or anything, right? But it's pretty much all there. There's a few little things that I've not included in this for one reason or another. So it's not 100% using every ability of the admin API. And one of the things is like the external authentication, like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and whatnot. I don't have those switches on here because as I was going and building those components and stuff, I'm like, wait, how do I get the current state if you have it set up? And it doesn't have a getter, it only has setters for those types of things. So it's kind of hard to like display something when you don't know what the status is. So hopefully I've sent a message and said, hey, it would be really nice to have like some current status of these things. And there's just some things are a little funny that they're not there. So yeah, data API, OData. This is kind of interesting. If you have multiple machines, they'll all list down here. You can toggle them on and off and whatnot. And yeah, it should show like connections. Let me open up. Let's see. So I just opened up that file in WebDirect, and we should be able to see, yeah, we got one connection now in WebDirect, and you should be able to see the clients there. So plugins, they'll list here. You can turn them on and off, get some more details. Custom web publishing, I mean, thankfully it's still here for if you need it. I still have a few things that use the XML. I really was into that for a long time until the data API came out. And then you can put in your license here, and you can import a license. You can do it right on your iPad or whatever. Yeah, so one of the key things that's missing in this that really I'm not very happy about is the exclusion of SSL certificate. And I have a module completed for it, and I was all pumped about it until I tried to submit my app without having the requirement for network connections being secure. And so that's kind of a little bit of a bummer. And so I'm going to work on like seeing if I can get a permission to, because I mean, really it's a tool for securing things. So I should be able to get that SSL certificate out and, that management in a future version. But there's two things that really I would really like to see from FileMaker. And one of them is the fact that when you're, you can go and generate your CSR and get filled out, and you go to input, but your server key file is required, and it's already on your server. So when you have to get that off the server somehow. Or why is it needed? Because it's already there. We're just importing it on top of itself. And it's a little strange because even in the web console, you can update your certificate without using the private key file. But it won't let you do that through the admin API. So, the admin API. So that's kind of a disappointing thing. And it would be a lot more useful if you could at least update your certificate. Without that, then you would not need to go into your server and get that file off somehow, right? So anyway, any questions so far before I get into something more interesting?
How do you go about doing your authentication to log on to the server? Where do you put it, your authentication to with the logging of the data API?
I couldn't quite hear that very clearly. It was something about authentication.
Yes, how do you go about setting up the account so that you can go ahead and get connected to the server?
Oh,
Where
yeah,
do you
okay,
put
sure. Yeah, when you
Yeah.
make it, yeah, when you do a server, this is the original login screen, right?
Okay.
So you can just put in like your username and password and then hit login.
Okay,
And
I might have
yeah,
missed.
I glossed over that. So once you've logged in, then it's just like a little button to press, because it's like you've got like a saved credential. And then if you click on the little arrow by the person, you can like remove that, right? So so yeah, it starts out this as default, and then you know, if you save and try to log in, like right now it's going to be like nah, because that's doesn't exist, right? So so anyway, yeah, so it keeps all your credentials for you. It stores them in keychain. So if you set this up on your computer and then you're out for a round of golf and some client calls you up and says, my server's down, then you can whip your iPhone out and you can just tap on it and you don't have to worry about looking up the password and whatnot. So it's all there. And even with FileMaker Cloud, it stores the same thing, but of course it is not storing the username and password. In the case of FileMaker Cloud, it's actually storing a couple of tokens, but I've made it so it's pretty much looks identical. One other interesting thing about Cloud as well is, you know, you make a schedule, you've got to say, man, I wish I had a cloud. I got this cloud server here. I want to go in, but I got like some private databases on there. They're not mine, so I can't show you. But one of the kind of cool things about Cloud is that when you're making a schedule in Cloud, it's making you use your own Claris ID to set that schedule up. And in my application, you can actually go in, and when you go into the schedule, you can choose to run the schedule under a different Cloud ID. So, or a different Claris ID than the admin one. And I don't think you can do that on their web console. So that's like a tiny little difference. And when you go in, like I'll go into how you make the schedules. And we're actually going to go there right now. So I'm just going to disconnect and continue this on the desktop for right now. So when you're making a new script like this, and you choose a database, and you put in your credentials, what happens is, and you see this thing, you might see this. This is a really annoying glitch with Swift UI when you have a password field inside of a popover, and yeah, it really stinks when you can't do anything about stuff. All right, so I put in my credentials here, and on FileMaker Cloud, when you open up this, what happens is it just has a little button, kind of like at the beginning, and it just says, yeah, you're you, I know who you are, you're using these credentials. But you can actually log out right here, and then you can log in, and you'll get a, if you have it set up to require the multi-factor code, the field will switch to a multi-factor code one. You put in the code, and then it'll save the credentials of the thing of the user you're logging into this database with. at this point instead of the admin one. So you could have that schedule run under somebody else's account. So anyway, so we'll go into this. And so this is how you make schedule. You go in, you can name your schedule like, you know, new test. And then we'll choose a script. Now, currently, and I'll show you an alternative version of this in a second. Right now, you just got to put the script name in, and you can put anything in, but of course it's going to fail, right? And you can put in like, I want to run it weekly on every Monday and Friday, start date, whatever, repeat. You know, let's like have this repeat every hour till whenever. And then we hit save, and then it pops it in there. So what did I call that thing? I got new test. I think it was like new test or something. Import name test, new test. I think this was it. Yep, it was. All right. So you can see like the name of the resource, which is the database you're running on, the action. Here's some like some OS scripts. One other thing too, let's say I'll go edit this. You can, well, if you're editing it, you can't change it after the fact. But when you start out and you make the schedule, you can pick the schedule type right here. And then I have the message schedules and the backup schedules separate because they're quite a bit different. And the backup and verify, I put them together because they're pretty much identical, except for one is like all of the parameters are the same, except for where you're going to save the backup. And the ones to verify, it doesn't do that. And I mean, I don't know who does the verify schedules very much. They're pretty rare. So anyway, you can go in and you can, you know, sort these by however you want. And then if you pick a schedule, you can see some details about when I last ran. Like around this morning, I was testing out some stuff. One really cool thing about this too is that this respects your time zone. So it doesn't matter where your server is, those times are now. And you don't have to do that conversion in your head like, oh, I gotta, you know, especially with cloud, right? Like FileMaker Cloud, it's like, oh yeah, it's I'm -7 here in Alberta. I think you guys are -6.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, who wants to be doing that? That's a bunch of garbage. So you set up your schedules for the date you want the schedule to run where you are setting it up. And one little caveat with that though is that if you're running a schedule and you have it do the repeat in day and you're repeating it every hour from the start time until the end time, that cannot span a day from the perspective of the server, right? So if I want to run a schedule from like every 20 minutes at 11 o'clock at night, and we're talking the server time. So if I wanted to run a schedule every 20 minutes at 11 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning, you got to do that in 2 schedules, right? Because once you hit 12, it kind of like freaks out. It's not going to accept that anymore. So that's one thing that's kind of crappy about like the time zone thing is you got to be aware of like, you know, the schedule won't save. If you're trying to do that, it's kind of, I don't think there's a big use case for that and people can figure it out. But yeah, it's kind of annoying. I wish it didn't care about what day. Like, I mean, let's have a start time and an end time, right? So anyway, any questions so far on this?
On the columns there, do you have anything that says whether a script was successful or just for their last runs?
Yeah, totally do. Yeah, so you can see the little check marks here. Those scripts are successful. This one errored out. These ones have not run. And you can also do the filtering too, eh? So you can be like, yeah, let's see if we have an error. Right? We want to see just the successful scripts. So, or the ones that have not. There's the never run. So
Nice.
this will, so as I was building this, I had a couple of people test it, and one of the testers was like, had a feature request for me. And they said, oh, well, I'll come back to this, but I'll just tell you, I'll set it up right now. He was like, you know, I've got these schedules that run daily, and I have to check them every single day to make sure that they ran properly. It's like, could you make a report or something that would let me know if the schedules all ran successfully? And I was like, huh, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that for a bit. And so I thought about how to maybe implement that. And I will show you how I dealt with that. But I want to show you a couple quick things. Well, one quick thing right here, and then we'll get into that. So I've got this. You guys are aware of like the relatively new script step called set session identifier. You guys heard of that?
About it, but I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, like they came out with that, and my little brain was like, hey, there's got to be some cool thing you can do with this thing. There's got to be, right? And so here's an example where it can be kind of interesting. So I'm going to run this schedule progress example. And what it's doing is it's going to run a script that is going to take a while to process. And what I do is I update, because the session identifier is what you see here. That's what it is. So if I was this user and I set the session identifier, it's going to change my username, right? And it says session identifier right up there. So if I went and so in the script, I want to be able to kind of check on how it's going. And so at every certain amount, like, you know, I put every 10 or 15% or something, I update the session identifier to show the what it is. So if I go in here and I run the script, you'll see that the script is running and the user will connect, the script will connect here. And you can see progress test is at 40%, 50%. So it's running the script on server and it's giving me a little bit of feedback. And because the application can kind of like, hey, yeah, this is like probably the user for the script. And so then you can see it's successfully ran. So if we go and run that again, you can see that this is just the
It's all good.
yeah, this is just this right here. Boop.
Well, how do you figure out the percentages? That's always confused me or challenged me.
Well, there's definitely different types of scripts, right? Like, I mean, there's going to be ones where you can know the percentage and ones where you cannot, right? So if you have a script that's very like a loop that is you know, more simple and it's just running through the loop, and you're like, yeah, I've got 100 iterations of this loop I'm running. You know, when the loop reaches 10% of the iterations, then update session identifier, because you do surprisingly, updating the session identifier is not a free operation. Like if you have it update that number all the time, it will slow down your script. So what you want to do is just test and say, oh, I'm on loop 30. And it's like, okay, 30 is the threshold. I only want to update every 10%. Then I'm going to you know, have an if statement and say, yeah, I'm updating my session identifier. And then if you don't, you know, then just keep skipping it until it hits 40, so you just update it only when there's a balance between, useful input and performance loss, right? So if you're doing it just like 10% per thing, it's really not, it's really not bad. So, but if there's if you're looping 1 million and you're doing it every time, it's a really big problem. But when you do it looping 1 million, you're doing every 10%. I mean, that's a lot of iterations without any updates. So that, that's acceptable. So, anyway, so that's kind of most of this application really, and some of the things that it can do. Now I'm going to show you some of the more fun things that it can do, which are not actually in the application. So we're going to go to the Shortcuts app. And what's that?
You said, did y'all catch that? I didn't understand.
Did I? Okay. So I kind of done with the main application. I mean, you've seen, I don't think I've missed too much, but we're going to look at a couple of cool things that you can do with shortcuts. So you remember I told you about that guy who's like, hey, I want a report for my my schedules, right? And so I thought about that, and I'm like, you know what? If I expose some of these things in shortcuts, maybe people can do their own stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new shortcut, and I'm just going to call it check schedules. And just hang on 1 second. Schedules 2. What? Really? I got a bunch of demo things I got to get rid of. All right. I'm going to check schedules for third time. All right. So I'm going to go to ServerManager, and this is right now, these steps are just kind of the beginning. I'll probably be adding some more, but there has to be a lot of thought put into how these are implemented. So right now I'm going to list schedules. So I'm going to get the FileMaker script schedules from server 1. And so what it'll do is it's going to give me this list. And this will log in and do it all in one shot. So what this step does, basically, it logs in, it grabs the list, and logs out all in one step. And if you don't really like that, you can actually go into the preferences, and you can go into security, and you can allow access for shortcuts. So shortcuts access server 1 there. So you can limit it. It's limitable. All right. So if we get we'll get the scripts from server 1, then we want to do a repeat. So we're going to repeat with
today.
No, we're going to repeat with each item. Oh no, this is the wrong repeat. That's why. There we go. Repeat with each item in schedules. So we're going to get the schedules, and we're going to repeat, and then we're going to put in an if. So So if, and we're going to look in the repeat item, which is the schedule, and we're going to look for the last error. And if it is greater than 0, then we know there's an error. And so if it is, we're going to go into, let's see, reminders. So we're going to, what's that?
Oh, okay, so great. So you create a reminder. Okay, nice.
Yes, yes. So we're going to add a reminder, and we're going to insert a variable, the repeat item name. And we're going to add that to, I've got like a schedule errors there. And I'm going to set an alert time at so let's say I start my day at like 7 a.m. I want to sit down at work and check out all right. And that's it. Okay, so now I can, on my phone, say, hey, run this every morning at like 5 o'clock after all my schedules have like finished their work. And so if you look in here, you can see I do have a aired out schedule. So if the important schedule is not ran, right? So, and let's see, I'll grab my reminders list here. And you can see my schedule errors. So I'm going to have this, let's say this automatically ran on my phone at 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, you got to allow it for the first time. And look at that. So we've got a important schedule. Today is 7 o'clock. It's going to remind me. And so so when I wake up in the morning and, or sit down at my desk or whatever, my reminders is filled up with all the schedules that didn't run correctly.
Nice,
So you can,
nice. Sweet.
yeah. So, so then let's see, let's do another one. Oh, this is my favorite one. So let's do, volume warning. So you want to know if your FileMaker server is going to be like all full. So you got one that's kind of getting up there. Oops. Get volume statistics for server 1. All right. So then I put an if statement in. So volume stats, if the used is greater than, let's say 80%, then I can do a reminder or whatever. I'll show an alert. You could say, oops. Your server is at, you're going to right click in here and choose a variable to insert. So I would go the used and then say like used %. You may want to free up some space. All right. So we know that server is like jam packed, right? So if I hit this, Your server is 90%, you want to have space, right? So you can put all these things in. The fun thing about this is this all works with Siri, right? So you can set up a couple of these, and then you can just ask Siri, hopefully nothing gets set off here. You can ask your electronic assistant about some stats on your FileMaker servers, right? If you're out and about or whatever, you need to. Another fun one is like if you want to know if actually now, how am I doing on time here? I'm probably like we got time for a couple
15 more minutes.
Okay, I've got a really good one to show you. I'll go through it. I have it already made up, and so I'll show you this instead. So I've got oh, here's another one too. Look, check this out. So if we go, I think I have this going into here. So I got this one shortcut. It was real simple. It's just like the schedules one, but it's for closed databases. So if you've got like some databases you want to check on, maybe they're closing automatically for some weird reason. I mean, stranger things have happened, right? So if you want to monitor something, there I got two databases that are closed that pops up in the reminders for me. This is a little more advanced one. So I wrote this one. It's like get script status, right? So it's taking an input of text, and then it's getting FileMaker script schedules from server 1, and then it's going to repeat with them. And if the name is the input text, then then I'm going to say it is finished at whatever the last runtime is, right? So this is not a very good name, get script status. It should have been like get the last completed or something like that. But so anyways, I go through the end if and if go out and then output this information. Now this is just a sub shortcut for a better one. So if I go here and look at this shortcut, receive any input. So we're going to receive some text. I'm going to look at all the clients on the server, because when you run a script, unless you do the change identifier, the script name is what's used for the name of the client, right? So repeat with each item in client. So we're going to look at each client. If any of them meet the name that we passed in from the beginning, then the script is running. Because if that user is connected that has the same name as the script, then we're here. But the thing is, we could have made this even safer by doing another check. We could have said, yeah, also the app version is like FileMaker server perform script or whatever it's called, right? So like if I go and if I'm in here and this is the one we're gonna test with, and I run this, if we look at this user here, you can see that the version is server 19, right? So and the client is script engine. So we could put in like even more, make it more precise by like not just checking the name, but we could also check, the app type or app version or whatever, right? So anyway, I'm just doing the name for this example. So now, is my cool script done yet? So that script is set up to run for 20 seconds just for the demo. But let's say you're doing like a huge thing that's processing and importing files and doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff, a big migration or something. Well, you can look and say, no, the script is still running, hold your horses. If not, and that's going to be the finish statement. Otherwise, we're just going to say yes for it's still running. But then at the end here, we're going to say if the finish statement is yes, I'm going to run the script status one, the other one I showed you. And we're going to take the result of that and replace it. And then it'll speak this. So we'll try this. We'll run this twice. And we'll see it run. So right now the script has finished. It's ran successfully. Hopefully you can hear this. I'm going to, because it's going to speak the thing. So I'm gonna have to hold my headphone up to the microphone for a second. So, so what's the text? So it's the script was called slow test. All right, let's check this out.
Yes, it finished at August 5th, 2022 at 11:19 a.m.
All right, did you hear that?
Nice, nice.
All right, cool. Now, if I run that same thing, let's run slow test. And it's going. Let's try that again. Oops.
No, the script is still running. Hold your horses.
Nice.
Right. So I take it you heard that. I couldn't hear because I had to take my headphones off for a sec. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, that's a little more complicated example, but it's interesting. Now, the thing that's cool is because it's, you know, because you're receiving this input, you can have it be like a command and you would just say like, you know, hey, digital assistant, is my cool script done yet? And then it could say, oh, what script? And you could tell it, and then it would run this, right? So there's a lot of pretty cool possibilities when you take into account these, you know, shortcuts, you know, and this. And really, all this is possible without my application, but you would have to like make, you know, you would have to go into here and you'd have to do it like this. So, yeah, you'd have to go get a URL and do, you know, get headers of URL. I mean, it'd just be a nightmare, right? So this really makes it way more accessible to, you know, anybody who doesn't want to. I mean, it's not even worth doing if you're doing all that stuff, right? So anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of wraps it up. Is there any questions?
This is a really cool app. I use it myself for, you know, all my customers on it. I'd like to show it, but I can't, you know, it's the same problem. You can't show all your customer stuff up but it really is neat for managing a number of customers, and this new groups thing that you have now, which you didn't used to have, is really going to make it nice so I can group customer servers together.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm excited for the groups thing. I got some interesting plans for enhancing that more that I thought about as I was making that. Well, one thing, a couple of things. I mean, see what you guys think would be interesting. But one of the interesting ideas I had for going forward was be able to take a couple of servers and pair them into like a development and production pair. So they would kind of behave like one server, right? And then you'd be able to have like, you know, actually when the new drag and drop stuff comes out, we're going to have some really cool stuff. If I get the time, like for instance, taking something like a schedule and dragging it over to another server, you know, things like that will really become possible. And, you know, if you know, we connected, linked two servers together, One's a development, one is a production. Then you could do things like have the schedules and stuff always be identical. And then you could have, I'd like to work towards like a migration tool at some point. I mean, there's lots of, it's all like if, right? But I mean, there's a lot of really cool, I think there's a lot of fertile ground to plow, you know what I mean? So it's,
Awesome.
yeah, it'd be good. I mean, if I could just work on this all day, every day, man, this thing would be like doing your dishes. I mean, I'd love to just make it do everything. But,
Well, I think it's awesome. I'm glad you got it out there, and I certainly make use of it. It certainly was worth the money in the App Store. So if you haven't tried it, I highly encourage people to try it. It's been very useful for me.
that's awesome. It's good to hear. It's good to hear feedback. And if anybody, if you're using it and you have like any kind of issues, or if you have an idea or anything like that, feedback is definitely really nice and a good motivator. And I mean, like, that's why the group thing is here now too, right? Because I only use a handful of servers, but the guy who asked for the grouping thing, he's dealing with like over 100 different servers, right? So
Wow.
yeah, so it's kind of a lot more useful for somebody like that. So
Certainly.
but,
Well, thank you for taking time to come speak to our group and show us this cool new app. And I'm hoping there's even more fun, exciting things coming as we can see playing. I hadn't thought about the shortcuts and stuff, so that's a whole new thing. I totally got out of it now, and I thought I already knew your app, and apparently I don't.
yeah, it's kind of like the hidden feature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And when I put some new shortcuts in there, it'll be nice. And I know that there's a few things like in the next a couple of versions that I've got planned. I gotta do there will be another update like right away, because there's a bug in this last version with the latest version of FileMaker Cloud. And so I gotta put that up like in the next day, and then or over the weekend sometime, as long as it's up to them to approve it, right? But
Yeah, nothing like Apple approvals.
yeah, they usually are pretty quick. Actually, the desktop is like approved really fast, and the iOS one takes like a little while sometimes. But so I got to get that update out right away. But there's a few like things I've been slow to put in here, like they added the ability to if you're doing a backup schedule, to be able to abort. They did that, and a couple little things that I just gotta kind of catch up on. But for the most part, I mean, definitely, really the main uses are you hop in, you look at the databases, you look at the clients. I mean, that's the schedule of things are kind of fun, but usually
There you go.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Anyway,
thank you, Jared, and send some cool weather down to Texas. We're burning up, so
yeah. Well, it's been really hot lately. Today is cool though. I mean, it's only 17 Celsius, so that's going to be like probably in this. Hey Siri, what's 17 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? 62.
Oh.
So yeah, today is cool, but it's normal. Like the last while, we've been pretty warm, and we've been up in the 30s Celsius, and that's like close to 100. So I think 34, I think, is about 100. And I mean, that's like That's nothing for you guys. I know. My sister used to live in Pearland. So
Certainly,
so-
certainly.
so
Okay,
she knows that Texas heat.
There we go. Okay, well, everybody, join us next month when we hear from Claris on their new program and some more on their new studio project and software. And we look forward to having everybody back then. And we thank you, Jared, for coming and sharing with us. We'll have this presentation up, posted on the website later today. So everybody have a great day, and we'll catch you next month.